Hey, I think we're live. I think we're going now. So, good evening, everybody. Does the picture look okay? Does it look a little dark? Let me know. I can bump up the settings a little bit, turn the brightness up if I need to, make sure everybody can hear me okay, all those kinds of things. I'll wait for your response in there. While we're doing that, let's get the disclaimers out of the way. This is a weekly live broadcast. Most Thursday evenings, 7 o'clock Central. I'm right here in case something gets in the way. Unless something gets in the way, I should say. But sometimes things happen and I can't make it into the live broadcast for whatever reason. But usually I'm here, and if I can't make it, I'll do my best to go into the community tab on YouTube, let you guys know that I can't make it for a live broadcast. But tonight we're here, 7 o'clock Central, like we are most Thursday nights. The only thing I ask from you guys, there's no topic planned. It's just my chance to interact with you guys. We'll go through the comments section, the live chat version of it, and I'll try to respond to you guys in the live chat. Everybody, I try to get through everybody in there. Unless you're talking to each other, I'll let you talk to each other. That's fine. I just ask, be family friendly, be polite, be courteous. Don't start cussing at people. Don't start calling people names. Don't be hateful, any of those kinds. And don't spam us with comments. That's it. So let's get in here. Glock Holiday, huh? That's a great name. Dropping by to say hello to you. I'm glad you dropped by. You were in here early. Grafted Branch Homestead, really excited to be here. I'm excited for you to be here too. And Ari, hello in advance, huh? Hello to you. Hey, good to see you, Ed. Katrina, she says hello to everyone from Gilroy, California. Who's a S. McKee. First time I've gotten here before it started. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining either way, whether it's before or during or even, late, it doesn't matter. Helen Bradley says, hey, everyone from Australia. We finally got rain last night. Stand back and watch everything grow. Awesome. We got some rain today, too, but we're going into wintertime, so there's not going to be a whole lot growing. Hello to you, Sage Wolf from Northeast Ohio. And Sillamore's here. Good to see you. From North Central Arkansas. Good evening to you, Jesse. From Iowa. Let's see. Katrina says it's good. Good evening to you, Kathleen. See and hear me just fine. Good. Oh, there we go. S. McKee's got a question. Is it okay to feed quail live earthworms? I tried it today, and the first they were scared. Then one grabbed it, and they all went crazy. Yeah, it's fine. You can feed them live earthworms if they'll eat them. It's, sometimes they'll eat that stuff. Sometimes they won't. But it's fine. It's not going to hurt their diet at all. It's fine. You can feed it to them. Messenger of Messiah. Hello from Southeast Missouri. Good to see you. Errol says, clearly heard. Thank you to the 10th power. You're very welcome. While we're waiting, says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. And John, hello from Western Nebraska. Hello to you too. Ari says, tomorrow's hatch day. Super excited. Well, good luck. I hope that you have a great hatch. Whiskey Tango Farms is here. Good to see you guys. They say hello to everyone. Mia says, do you grow any crops? Well, I don't grow. It just depends. I grow crops, gardens. I grow, typically tomatoes are always in my garden. Green beans. What else do I do? Squash, zucchini, some lettuce, some salad greens, potatoes, garlic, onions. What else do I grow? It varies a little bit. Cucumbers, peppers, jalapenos, poblanos, and habaneros, and usually some banana peppers for my wife. She likes those. Am I missing anything? Well, we grow lots of things, but yes, we do grow some things. Owen says, hey, how you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. And Cindy and Ryan from Texas, hello to you guys. Ron from Harrison, Arkansas says, I've noticed my California doesn't eat as much as my New Zealand. Is that normal? I don't know that. No, I don't know that that's normal necessarily. I've got a California buck and a New Zealand doe. The California buck generally eats more than my New Zealand doe, but not always. She goes through phases where she'll eat more and then she'll eat less. And then, it just varies. Grab a drink here and clear my throat out a little bit. So I wouldn't say that it has to do necessarily with the breed of the rabbit being a California, but it could be any number of reasons why it's eating less. It may not be exerting as much energy, burning as many calories. It may be older. I think when the rabbits get a little bit older, they do start eating a little bit less. Also, my rabbits, especially my doe, really cuts back on the feed in the heat of summer when she's not doing anything but just laying around in the cage trying to stay cool. She doesn't eat nearly as much. But now that we're starting to get cooler and the weather's starting to drop, she's starting to eat a lot more. And she's actually eating more than my California buck is the last couple of days, we'll see if that keeps going or not. So I don't know if that gave you a good answer or not, but hopefully, I mean, it's not necessarily normal, but it's not abnormal either. Errol says, have you watched have watched just about every quail video posted, and what a benefit they have been. I am so glad to hear that. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate that. Abigail says, hey, Chris, how's your wife doing? She's doing very well, thank you. No major issues lately. So her last doctor's appointment went well. Everything checked out good. So far, all is good. God is good to us and has seen us through a lot. But so far, she is doing very well. Thank you. Katrina says, harvested 30 extra male quail on Sunday, first harvest. The drill attached plucker worked really well. Interesting. I'm kind of surprised to hear that, but I'm glad you came back and reported to us. I remember talking about that, and I was leery as to whether it would do a very good job or not. He says, Katrina says, make sure you give them grit if you give them earthworms, though. Well, that's a good point. If you're giving them earthworms or any insect or anything besides like quail feed on a regular basis, they need to have some kind of grit available to them. Now, if you have a sandbox, they can eat some sand, and that'll be the grit that they can get. But they do need to have some kind of grit available to them to help them grind up that food. They're just like chickens. So if they're eating anything besides just their basic quail food, they're going to need some kind of grit. Now, that's not to say that if you feed them one earthworm, you have to give them grit. It's just if you're going to feed them to them on a regular basis, for sure. All right, Dale's Quails is here. Good to see you. Says, hello, everyone. Another beautiful night here in Wisconsin. Started the winter preps today on the homestead. Yeah, they're coming. Winter's coming our way, too, but we still got a little bit of time. Our average first frost date is October 15th. I think it's going to be late this year, though. The way the weather's looking right now, it's not looking like frost anytime soon. Toasted, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Kathleen says, what are some good bugs and grain to feed quail? Oh, good question. They can eat just about any bug. I mean, within reason. I mean, there's probably some that they shouldn't eat, but I mean, that list is probably shorter than what they should eat. I think probably anything that they want to eat, that they will, is fine to feed to them. You can feed them, maggots from flies, black soldier fly larvae, worms, any kind of insect, anything basically. As far as grains go, there's a ton of different grains out there that they can eat as well. I don't have a comprehensive list of all that stuff. I'm trying to work on getting some information together because so many people have asked on like making your own quail food and what you would need to put into it. But I don't have that information yet. It's a pretty complex topic. So give me some time on that. Hopefully I'll be able to come back. But other grain you could feed them. Let's see, what could you feed them? Pretty much think of them like little chickens. So just about anything you feed to chickens is probably going to be okay to feed to your quail. But what I would suggest is that you really don't go overboard with feeding them on grains and bugs and insects and those kinds of things. They have a pretty specific dietary need. And, you're best off sticking with like a commercial feed, a commercial quail food, game bird starter, turkey starter, game bird feed of some kind, because that's going to have the right balance of the different nutrients they need, as well as the calcium levels. When you start, really varying their diet and giving them a whole bunch of other stuff, you can throw that off quite a bit. Unless you're like free ranging them, so to speak, in large aviary style where they have free access to all kinds of different things, you still really should be supplementing them with a good high quality game bird feed. And in that case, I would also make sure that you offer them some kind of calcium supplement, whether that be crushed oyster shell or, eggshells that have been dried out and crushed. Offer it free feed, not mixed in with their feed, so they can have free access to that, because you will throw the nutrients off in their diet if you start trying to feed them primarily other things, if that makes sense. So hopefully soon I'll be able to get some information together for you guys on how to make your own quail feed, what you would need, and we'll see what we can do with that. All right, Katrina says, how much hay is too much to feed your meat rabbits? I don't know that there is any such thing as too much hay to feed your meat rabbits. You can feed them as much as you want to, or as little as you want to, for that matter. I've never seen a rabbit that would overeat on hay. You can just give it free choice, as much as they want to eat. The only thing you're going to have to worry about if you're putting tons of hay in your rabbit cage and they don't eat it all, you're going to have to keep it checked pretty regularly. You don't want it to start to mold. And hay sitting around can mold pretty easily. And if it starts to mold, that can be dangerous for them. So, take that for how you will, but you don't have to worry about overfeeding them on hay. It's fine. All right, Joe says, hey, Chris, question on composting. What do you do during the winter when everything dies, such as good bacteria and fungi? I will cross it I was curious if it should be bagged up and put in a shed or a barn. Thanks, Chris. So I think what you're asking me is when your compost is kind of done, basically, and you go into wintertime, should you bag it? I never do. I just let it sit there all summer long. Now, if you get your compost mixture right, the right amount of carbon, the right amount of nitrogen in there, it's going to be too hot to die off. I mean, you're not going to have any problems with it freezing or dying or, the good bacteria, any of those kinds of things dying off. But that, you just got to have that right mix, enough nitrogen, enough carbon. Carbon's going to be probably the hardest part to come by. Most things are nitrogen. I got like a hair or something. If you guys see me scratching my face or something dangling, it's probably one of my wife's hairs. She sheds all over me. But anyway, I think we're back. Nope, there it is right there. Sorry, distracted for a second. So anyway, back to the compost story. So yeah, if you get your nitrogen, carbon right, okay, that's where I was going. Carbon is usually the hardest part to really get in bulk because most things that we have on our homesteads or backyards or whatever that we would put in a compost pile are nitrogen. So nitrogen is going to be all your green stuff and manure. So if you're putting like rabbit manure, quail manure, or whatever that into your compost pile, that's nitrogen. That's almost pure nitrogen. Not really pure, but it's very high nitrogen. So consider it as nitrogen. Same thing with most of your kitchen scraps, vegetable scraps, all that kind of stuff is going to be considered nitrogen. Grass clippings are almost the perfect mix of nitrogen and carbon for a compost pile. But if you're just putting grass clippings and then throwing manure and kitchen scraps and then you're low in carbon. So carbon is going to be your brown materials, dead leaves. This is probably a good time of year to collect that. Anyway, you didn't really ask about how to make a compost pile, so you may already know all those kinds of things. But again, if you can get those mixes right, it'll get pretty hot, and it's going to stay hot enough that you don't have to worry about it freezing. Even if it does freeze, it's not that big of a deal. You don't need to bag it up. It's fine. Just leave it lay where it is. Or better yet, if you have it, if it's finished compost already, just spread it on your garden beds and let it sit there over winter. That it's really a good time in the fall to dress out your garden beds and let them, they'll be ready to plant into in the spring. So hopefully that answers it. Hey, Whiskey Tango Farm says a question: How often does RHDV2 outbreak occur? We're 179 miles from the one in St. Paul with 125 miles. No selling or show rabbits, too close for comfort. Yikes. Yeah, that's kind of scary, isn't it? It's pretty rare in the United States. As far as I know, it's only been detected in the United States a couple of times. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't get worse. I know in Australia, it's been a big issue. And if I remember right, I may be wrong on this, so fact check me, go double check. Somebody's probably going to know. But I believe it was introduced by the Australian government to help control the rabbits in Australia. But I may be wrong on that one. Either way, I don't know that it's a huge concern in the States yet. Of course, I said that a couple of years ago when it had only been detected once or twice, and now it's been detected again somewhere. So you never know. It may come back to, make a surge. I don't know. But I wouldn't really stress about it too much at this point. I don't think it's a big concern. It is probably worth noting, though, that since you are so close, that any rabbits you bring into your rabbitry, you should probably quarantine. That's probably best practice really anytime anyway, but especially now. I'd quarantine them for at least 30 days away from your other rabbits, just so you can make sure. All right, while we're waiting, it says, question, do you have a favorite pickled egg recipe? I'll tell you the best way to eat pickled eggs is open up the jar and dump them in the trash because they're not good. That's my opinion. I know lots of people love pickled eggs. I'm being sarcastic. I have tried to make them a couple of times, a couple of different recipes, and I have not found one that I liked. I just don't really care for pickled eggs. I've never had one that I liked, whether it was me making them or somebody else making them. So afraid I can't help you out with that one. It's just not something that I care for. So yeah, I don't have a good recipe for it. Sorry. Whiskey Tango says, hit the like button, everybody. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. And if you guys don't go check out Whiskey Tango Farms, go check out their videos. They do live broadcasts quite frequently. I very seldom ever make it into the live broadcast, but occasionally I do. But go check out their videos. Go join their live broadcasts. They're a great couple of people, 3 people actually, I guess, in the family, but they're great people. They'll do a good job in helping you guys out with rabbit questions, quail questions. They also sell eggs. So if you're in the market to buy eggs, there's another place where you can buy eggs from. You're going to get a great supplier there. All right. Katrina says, I haven't had them long, but my California buck eats less hay than my New Zealand doe, but I only have about a month of data. Yeah, that's not, some rabbits eat it more often than others. When I haven't been feeding hay to my rabbits in a while, actually. And there's no reason for it. I just haven't been doing it. It's probably good practice to do it. I've done videos on that before and talked about, do rabbits need hay? And, there's varying thoughts on that. At the time, I was under the impression that, yeah, they do need hay. They need that long fiber. But now I'm not so sure that that's true, that they absolutely have to have hay. But there's nothing wrong with giving it to them. It's a good supplement for them. It gives them something to eat. It's fine. So I just have been kind of lazy, haven't picked up any hay and haven't fed it to them for a while. But when I was feeding them hay on a regular basis, some of my rabbits, I only have 2 right now, but when I had multiple rabbits, more than that, some of them made a lot of hay and some of them didn't eat a lot of hay. So, it's just, and they'd go through phases. Sometimes they'd eat more hay than other times. It's just, who knows? Toasted said, I have a hen who hates roosters. She makes squirking. That's what it says, squirking noises. Interesting way to describe it. At every single one that is nearby. Any advice? What I would do, I don't know if this is advice for you, but what I would do is probably eat the hen and get a new hen. Just replace her. I don't do a lot of troubleshooting with my birds that have kind of attitude problems, whether it's aggression or they don't want to breed or, whatever. If they're having those problems, I just put them in the freezer and let the next generation fill in for them. I just don't, I don't put a lot of effort into it. And I think over time, you're going to get better bloodlines if you're calling pretty hard for any of those kinds of things. You're going to end up with stronger flock in the end. So that would be my best advice for that. Otherwise, if you really want to make sure you fix her and just leave her alone and let her get over it, she probably will over time. I don't know that it's anything major to be worried about at this point. Hopefully that gives you an answer. I don't know if it's the one you're looking for, but that's probably the best that I can do. All right, Errol says, what a saver you have been as it pertains to how to manage quail poo. It was a fly magnet, and how funky, so much that a hater neighbor tried to cause problems. Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that. I'm not sure what I did with helping you on that. Hopefully I gave you good advice. Again, with managing, if you can keep it dry, it's really not too bad. If it gets wet, that's a different story. It does smell pretty bad if it gets wet. But I find, just letting it fall under the cages right there, it's really not a problem for me. It's not, you don't really smell it. Even after a rain, you don't really, unless it's a heavy, heavy, heavy rain. But even then, you really don't smell it more than just a couple of feet away from it. And I don't have a big problem with flies either, but I have black soldier flies that move in, and they seem to keep the flies at bay. But yeah, if you need, you can always compost it. It composts down pretty well. Again, throw a lot of carbon in there with it, and that'll keep the smell down. You may have to turn it a couple of times within a week or two, but it'll compost down pretty quick. Ron says, thanks. Well, you're welcome, Ron. I don't remember what I answered for you, but you're welcome. Whiskey Tango Farm says, question, do you think a mini Rex would be able to foster a litter of meat rabbit kits if the meat rabbit mama isn't doing a good job? That's a good question. I don't really know. I would think that maybe she would do a decent job with fostering them when they're young, like, just day olds or a couple days old. But I don't know if she could produce enough milk to keep up with them for, the full 6 weeks that they usually are nursing. They'd get, by the time they're, 3 weeks old, they're going to be about the size of that. Well, maybe not 3, maybe a little older than that, but not much older than that before they're the size of that, mini Rex. So I guess it depends on how many rabbits you're talking about. I really don't know the answer to that one. That's a good question. I would say try it out, especially if it's a small litter. Maybe you'll get pretty good results with it. S. McKee says to Katrina, thanks. My quail always have a grit and sand bass. There you go. Jasmine says, hello, Chris and friends, watching from Crane, Missouri. I know exactly where Crane is. Been there many times. Katrina says, we scalded at 150 degrees for 30, sometimes a little bit more than 30 seconds before using the drill attachment plucker. I'm glad to hear that worked out well. I was kind of skeptic. I didn't think it would work out very well at all, but interesting. I may have to give it a try at some point. Messenger of Messiah says, I have a batch of 15 6-week-old hens. One was started laying. Do you know a way to tell which one is which? How to tell which bird is doing the laying? Other than being incredibly patient or putting a camera in there or something, I don't really think there is a way, not that I know of, to tell. Well, the bird's still alive anyway. If you wanted to process the bird, you would find eggs inside, and that would tell you. But chances are, you said one has started laying, probably multiple have started laying. They're just not laying every day yet. And they probably won't right now unless you've got some kind of external light on them, because we're going into wintertime. The days are getting shorter. My birds are almost shut down. I get maybe 3 eggs a day out of all of them for the past couple of days. And I expect that in the next day or two, they won't have any. I'll get the lights going and get them laying again here pretty soon, but I've got more eggs than I can eat right now. So I'm not worried about it right now. Paleo says, greetings from Maine. Good to see you, Paleo. Katrina, excuse me. Let me grab another drink here. I got to talk. I got to figure out a way to adjust the gain on my microphone. It's so quiet. I always forget about it until it's time to do live broadcast. Then I'm scrambling and trying to figure out how to adjust, and I can't find the setting. And then I just jump in here. So I'm talking really, really loud, straining my voice a little bit, but that's okay. All right. Katrina says, after a big quail call, basically processed half my birds, how long does it take for the pecking order to reorganize? Mine are in the aviary. So you basically you processed half your birds. You shouldn't run into any problems with removing birds. It's really only a problem when you add new birds. Now, if you've got them in a great big aviary, I would think they're going to get that figured out pretty quick. Even if you do add new birds to it, just the amount of, I'm assuming your aviary is pretty good size. So if they've got plenty of room in an aviary type setup, there's not going to be too many issues with it probably, because they've got more room. They can get away from the other birds. It's really when you cage them up and you have them in a little bit closer quarters, that's when you're going to run into most of those issues with the pecking order, so to speak. And again, it's really only when you're bringing new birds in. When you take birds out, you usually don't run into that issue. If you do, then it's probably going to work itself out in, a couple of days a week, something like that at the most. So hopefully that helps. Hello to you, Boris. Sage Wolf says, I saw one of my quail eat an ant that went where he shouldn't. Okay. Yeah, they'll eat just about anything that gets in there, I'm sure. Yeah. Within reason. I mean, anything they can get in their mouth. Chris Dairy Rose says, I can't stay. I just wanted to jump in and say hello. Good evening. I hope all is well. Well, thanks for stopping by, and hopefully whatever you got going on goes well. All right. I'm going to skip that one because you're talking to somebody else. Errol says, I'm averaging 16 eggs daily and in the process of selling them at 50 cents each and establishing a regular grocery market. Any suggestions? It sounds like you're right on your way. I mean, you're selling them for 50 cents each. And I don't know what you mean by and establishing a regular grocery market. Does that mean you've got a relationship with a grocery market that you're selling them to, or you're establishing a market to sell the eggs to? I think that's probably more like what you mean. But yeah, you're selling them for 50 cents each every day. I mean, it sounds like you're on the right track. I don't typically sell my eggs. I mean, I do occasionally, but it's not a big thing for me. I don't do it on a regular basis. I don't have a big market for quail or quail eggs or any of those kinds of things. So I may not be the best person to ask about those. Zach over at My Shire has been doing a series on quail for profit, and he's pretty big. So he's talking, I think, probably big scale, but there's a lot of the principles he's talking about that would probably apply to whatever size that you want to be. So it may be worth checking out his videos on that. He does that for a living, so he's probably going to have a little bit of a better way to talk about that. Whiskey Tango Farms also sells eggs, so they may have some advice for you as well. All right, we got a couple people talking to each other. I will let you guys discuss that between yourself. And Sage Wolf says, during leaf falling season, keep an eye out for people putting bags of leaves on the curb for the garbage truck to pick up. Hence a good source of carbon for free. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Great suggestion. Yeah, you can get a lot of that stuff for free. I usually have plenty of it in my yard. I don't have to pick it up from anybody else. But, there are some things that you can do. I mean, you can throw leaves directly in your compost pile. It's probably best to try to chop them up some way or another, get them in smaller pieces. If you throw whole dead leaves into your compost pile, a lot of times what will happen is they tend to stick together and mat together. And then you end up with almost like a tarp-like effect where they'll hold water and all those kinds of things. They'll still break down over time. It's just going to take longer. If you can break them up somehow, there's a couple of ways you could do that. If you have a leaf blower that also works as a vacuum, you use it as a vacuum and suck those leaves up into a big trash can or something. It'll just mulch them up real fine and blow them into that trash can. That's probably the easiest way if you have a leaf blower. You can do similar with like a garbage can and a weed eater, and running your weed eater up and down in the garbage can with the leaves in it. That's a little bit of work. You could pour them out there and run them over with a mower that has a bagger on it. There's a lot of different ways you could do that. Or you can just kind of not worry about it, throw them in there and just stir your compost pile quite frequently, and it'll all work. But it is really best if you can kind of mulch them up somehow, chop them up. How are we doing on time? We got about 35 minutes left. All right, Errol's laughing at something. I'm not sure what. Did I miss something? I don't know what I'm laughing at, but that's okay. You crack me up. What did I say something funny? I don't know what I said. I've already forgotten. If I had a joke in there, I forgot what it was, or I didn't mean it as a joke. Maybe that could be the case. It's the pickled eggs comment. Okay. It takes a while for me to get through the comments. So something I talked about, 10 minutes ago, I'm just now getting to the section where you guys are commenting on that. I was lost there for a minute. Sorry. Errol says, I'm not a fancier pickle eggs either. Just scramble or omelet them. And since salmonella free, we'll whisk a quail egg or two into a screwdriver. Yeah, that's true. They are. I don't know if they're completely salmonella free, but they are, incredibly low risk of salmonella, enough that you could probably call them salmonella free. But yeah, you could, you can definitely eat them raw. And there are some real health benefits that come with eating raw quail eggs. I did a video on that a long time ago. But yeah, there's some real science behind, all kinds of health benefits. This isn't just like, forgive me, hopefully I'm not offending anybody, but this isn't, when I'm saying real science behind it, this isn't like, the claims people have about like apple cider vinegar and stuff like that. It's almost magical the way that it's not the same thing as that. Apple cider vinegar, yogurt, all those stuff has lactobacillus bacteria in it, which is very good for your gut health. But there is some real science behind quail eggs actually curing some things like diabetes and heart problems and all kinds of things like that. So, you look into it sometime. There's a whole bunch of medical information about it, and it's legitimately like real science behind it. It's crazy. All right, Ron says, LOL, I don't like pickled eggs neither, I think it is. Either. I think it should be either, but I don't know. I don't like pickled eggs either. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. If stuff hit the fan, could rabbits live off hay alone? I think it'd probably take a lot of hay. It's not the most balanced diet for them, but it could be a primary part of their diet, as long as you can find other things to supplement in with that. And that could be, plantain that's growing in your yard. If you've got the ability to grow barley fodder, wheat fodder, any of those kinds of things can really help round that out. Katrina says, USDA has good info on hemorrhagic rabbit disease. Look it up on the internet. They have a map of where the cases have been recorded. They also have some good fact sheets on what to do if you suspect it. That's very good. Yeah. Whiskey Tango Farm says the same thing. It's very good to know. Thanks, Katrina. Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much. It's not something that, honestly, I really worry about too much, so I haven't been paying much attention to it. If it starts getting closer, it starts hitting the news or whatever, where it's mainstream stuff, I'll definitely pay attention to it. But there's not much I can do about it. Hopefully it doesn't hit. If it does, what do you do, right? Hey, Verna's here. Good to see you, Verna. Don't worry about being late. It's all good. Whiskey Tango Farms beat me to it. They said, it's okay, Verna. We don't keep attendance. Yeah, you guys got me. You knew what I was going to say, didn't you? Verna says, I got lost watching a man carve a home out of a mountain. Yeah, that stuff happens to me every once in a while, too. I click on some video to watch it for a few minutes and get lost in it and just get wrapped up. I watched a video the other day. There was a guy that was, I don't know if I should talk about it here or not. I don't know if anybody's going to be upset about it or not, but it was about Freemasonry and how he got wrapped up in Freemasonry and then figured out that it was based, his opinion, I don't really know well enough to know, but his opinion was it is based on like witchcraft and stuff. He became a born-again Christian through the process and just had an amazing testimony aside from that part of the story, and eventually got out of, Masonry or Freemasonry or whatever it was. He was pretty high up in it too. But anyway, that wasn't the whole point of the story. He had a whole lot more to talk about. It was a pretty interesting story. Whiskey Tango Farm says if you have enough cages, you could separate each female to find out who is laying. Hey, that's a good suggestion. The problem is, well, and you probably will figure that out pretty quick because, I mean, if you separate them all into separate cages, they're going to stop laying because you moved them around. That stresses them out. But they'll probably still lay another egg or two before they shut down. So that would give you an idea of who's laying. The problem is you're going to stop laying for, a week or two before they start picking back up again. La Sierra Acres says, hey, Chris, Josh checking in from Riverside, California. How you doing, man? I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. Thanks for stopping by. Josh Sparks says, hey, Chris, how it goes? How's the wife? Well, we're all doing very well. Thank you. So far, everything's good here. Hopefully it is with you too. Let's see. Errol says, yes, I have a market that I want to sell them, or that will want to sell them. Okay. So you have a grocery store that wants to sell quail eggs. Well, I mean, I don't know what advice you need exactly. It sounds like you got it set up. I mean, just agree on a price, how many you can deliver to them. The one thing I would say is if you don't have it already, get lights set up on your hutches and start incubating, get replacements because, my luck anyway, the worst thing that would happen is I'd get that market set up. They'd want to sell quail eggs. So they'd have a regular order that I'd have to deliver. And then I'd lose half my birds. They'd die. Or, like I said, the lights aren't set up, so they stop laying, that kind of thing. So I would just say, try to have backups of your backups, get some birds producing, get them hatched out, get them growing up to produce. You can always call your extras if they get, if you're not having those problems, but I would say get that going now, don't be stuck without being able to produce. Hello to you, Gromies United. Hello. Let's see. Verna says if they're in a bag, you can crush them up. If what's in a bag? I've forgotten already. But anyway, let's get to it. Verna says if they're in a bag, you can crush them up while they're in the bag before pouring it all out. Leaves, I think it is. Dry leaves, maybe? Yep, that's a good suggestion. So I don't know who Carrie's talking about. River. I don't know who is that. Did I miss that? Anyway, if River's on here, Carrie's talking to you. Katrina says, I have some in a smoothie every day. Can't taste it. No weird texture, only a bit more foam. Okay, are you talking about the earthworms or the grit? Or no, probably the raw quail eggs, right? Probably the raw quail eggs. Yeah, no, I imagine that'd be a good way to do that if you want to have, raw quail eggs. You want to add that to your diet. Verna says, talking about raw quail eggs, makes me think of an eggnog. 'Tis the beginning of eggnog season. Yeah, I made eggnog out of raw quail or out of quail eggs. I don't know, a couple of years ago, and it was all right. It was pretty good. I have yet to master the art of homemade eggnog. I've made it a couple of times. I just love eggnog. It's one of my favorite things. But I don't know if I just have gotten so used to the commercial, like you go buy in a carton at the store, that I just don't know what good eggnog is because making it at home just never quite gets up to the point I want. But anyway, Errol says, to Verna, yeah, whisk a few into eggnog. Yeah, well, I mean, I just make it with the eggs. Jesse says, now I want some quail eggnog. Verna says, just quail eggs and cream, a touch of sugar and honey and vanilla. Yeah, that's pretty much, I can't remember the recipe I used, but it's more or less that. Heavy cream. I think, is it heavy cream or is it? Yeah, it is heavy cream, eggs. I don't remember putting honey in there, a little bit of sugar, vanilla, seems like nutmeg maybe. I can't remember the recipe. I'll have to look one up. But if anybody's got one, share it with us. Let us know. Carrie says, Freemasonry is of Satan for sure, evil. Yeah, I don't know enough about it to be able to make that decision. I'm not involved with Masonry. My cousin is. And this is what I don't know either, is Freemasonry the same thing as the Masons that are here in the United States, that, the Masonic Lodge. I don't know if it's all the exact same thing. I just don't know enough about it, so I can't speak to it. But anyway, I'm not involved with it, so I don't know. All right. Verna says, Chris, be like me and keep an incubator running all the time. Oh, yeah, pretty much. Eggs. Yeah, I knew you were talking about eggs. I was just kidding with you. Yep. Oh, yeah, I'm the king of the dad jokes. Sorry. Mike says, hope everyone is having a great night. I don't have any questions. Just wanted to stop by and say thanks for all the info and God bless. Thank you very much, Mike. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for letting us know. Hey, there's that Brady Tangway, I think it is, from Maine. Good to see you. Thanks. Verna says, that's because you don't add cream and pumpkin pie spice. No, I think I did add all those things. I don't know if it was pumpkin pie spice. I don't think I added pumpkin pie spice, but the same things should go into a pumpkin pie. So that'd be like nutmeg, ginger. What else goes in there? Cinnamon, maybe? A little bit of cinnamon. I can't remember. Yeah, we're getting close to that time of year. My favorite, I shouldn't say my favorite. I like living in Southwest Missouri because you get all 4 seasons. So by the time summer's done, I'm kind of ready for fall. And when fall gets here, then I get to look forward to all those foods I like to eat, eggnog, pumpkin pie, just love pumpkin pie. And, you guys can fight me on this if you want to, but the best pumpkin pie is on the back of the Real-Bees can. The recipe on the back of the can that makes the absolute best pumpkin pie. But yeah. So, clove. Yeah, clove. I forgot about clove. You're right. Clove's in there. I don't typically like clove, but it's good in that. Jasmine says, I'm on the Be Like Verna bandwagon with a constant rotation of eggs in the incubator. There you go. Mike says, want to hear a dad joke? What do you call a pig with 3 eyes? P-I-I-G, a pig. Errol says, as my grandfather would say, devil catches the meddler as it pertains to Masons and Eastern Stars. I mind my own business. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Vanilla. Vanilla is the eggnog comment, I think. Yep, I put vanilla in it. I know that. And what I made, the eggnog I made wasn't bad. It was pretty good, but it wasn't like that rich, real. I mean, it just wasn't super flavorful. I put it that way. And it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't noggy enough, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't bad, though. Let's see. Gulf Breeze says, thank you for all your information on your videos. It's been a huge help for my flock. Yep. I am so glad to hear that. Thank you for watching the videos. I try to, I do this to help you guys out. So it makes me happy whenever you, let me know that it does help you out. Whiskey Tango Farms likes your joke, Mike. It says, here's a good one that we had on our live a while back. Don't give it away if you've heard it. What do you do if your quail is bleeding? That's pretty good. Get a tourniquet. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see. The Emperor of Rome says, hey, how have you been? It's been a while. How should I mix my new quail with my flock? Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, thanks for joining again. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Mixing new quail with an existing flock, that could be real tricky. I mean, you already know what's going to happen probably is you're going to get some fighting and some of those kinds of things that go on. So there's a couple things you can do to minimize that. You may be able to just throw them in there and just let them fight it out and work it out, and it'd be fine. But you may not. They may get a little bit too aggressive and too much of fighting, and it may cause problems. So a couple things you can do to help minimize that would be, if you have the ability to put all your birds in a new cage. So instead of adding your birds to the existing cage with the existing birds, take all the birds and put them in a new cage together. So they're in a new environment with new birds. That will help kind of minimize that a little bit. They have a tendency to be very territorial. So when the new birds come into their territory, that's part of the reason why they're fighting, picking on each other, all those kinds of things. Whereas if it's all new territory to all the birds, then there's no reason to protect territory. It's all new territory, if that makes sense. Another things you can do is, if you don't have lights on your hutches, just wait a couple of weeks if you can. When the days start getting a little bit shorter, the birds stop laying, the roosters stop crowing. They're going to be a lot more docile at that point. It's really kind of the breeding hormones that make them a little bit more aggressive. Now, that's not to say you won't have any fighting, but it will help minimize that. They'll be a lot easier to deal with at that point. So those are 2 or 3 things that you can do. You can try to mix up the birds. If you have 2 cages, take a handful of your new birds with a handful of the existing birds, put them in one cage, and put the new bird, mix them up a little bit so it's not all the new birds in with the existing birds. You just kind of mix them up, and there's a couple of ways you can handle that. Hopefully that gives you some ideas on how to do it. What I typically do is just kind of throw them in there and kind of watch them fairly closely for a day or two and see if they're, I mean, sometimes you don't have many problems at all. Sometimes there's a little bit of fighting, but they work it out pretty quick and it's not a big deal. If I find a bird that's getting beat up too bad, I try to find out which one the aggressor is, if I can nail it down to one bird, and I just remove that bird from the flock, at least for a while, and then you can put it back in, and it's the new bird, so it kind of gets put in check. But anyway, Verna says commercial eggnog is brought up to pasteurizing. Yep. This could be the difference. I don't think pasteurizing really changes the flavor that much. But yeah, it could be. It very well could be. I don't know. My guess is that, here. My guess is that there's probably something else in there that they put in it to make it taste differently, and that's just kind of what I'm used to, so I've acquired a taste for it. You ever buy a store-bought pumpkin pie? Like, go to the store and they've got pumpkin pie pre-made. That stuff is terrible. Terrible. And I love pumpkin pie, but it's almost unedible, because they do something, they do it differently. I don't know what they do. It's different. Emily says the tip on ear mites and oil spray was great. Well, thank you. Yeah, that works well for me. Whiskey Tango Farm says, have you tried Alton Brown's eggnog? It may have been Alton Brown's recipe. I don't remember. I have a hard time remembering what recipes I've tried if they weren't that great. I mean, it wasn't bad, so it wasn't like I was like, oh, never do that again. It was decent. But it just wasn't like fantastic enough for me to like, oh, I got to save this recipe. So I don't remember which one I tried. I've tried a couple of different ones, and they're all pretty decent. I mean, I haven't had one that was really bad yet. They're just kind of just not as much flavor to them as I would like. All right, Ari says, how can I keep my quail's toenails short? I give them sand and things like that, and they still grow longer than I would like them to. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know of a good way to do that right off the bat. I've never noticed an issue with their toenails growing too long. I mean, I guess you could clip them down, but you'd want to be really careful not to clip them too short and cause issues with the birds. I can't think. Here's my concern. I mean, I could recommend a couple of ideas that would keep their toenails worn down, but my concern is that that's also going to be rough on their feet. And if you get something that's rough on their feet enough to wear down their toenails, it's going to wear on their pads of their feet too. And then you could be running into issues with bumblefoot and all those kinds of things. So I don't know if it's not an issue, if you're not having if they're not getting their toenails caught in things and, tearing them and those kinds of things. I don't know that I'd mess with it too much, but you might try clipping them. That seems like a pretty traumatic thing for the bird to go through, and they're not going to enjoy it, I wouldn't think. But I guess you could. I don't really know the answer to that. I'm sorry. Brady says, we keep 42 egg incubator running 24/7 and breed our 4 doe rabbits on a rotation. Yeah, that keeps you pretty busy, I imagine. But nothing wrong with that. Jasmine, how are we doing on time? Oh, yeah, we got 15 minutes. Jasmine says, I make eggnog with pure maple syrup instead of a sugar or honey. Even though I am a beekeeper, I don't appreciate the honey flavor in my eggnog. I kind of think, honey and eggnog doesn't sound all that great to me either. I like honey quite a bit. But yeah, it doesn't seem like the flavors would mix. But then again, maple syrup doesn't sound that good in eggnog to me either. So I don't know. And I don't like my eggnog super sweet, just a little bit of sugar in it. And I could see, I don't know, maybe it is good with one of those other two things. All right. Silmore says, gotta go. God bless all. Have a great night. God bless you too. And hopefully you have a great night as well. All right. Emily says, somehow 1 doe out of 4 got ear mites. Oh, it's common. It's going to happen again. Don't worry. I mean, and if it doesn't happen to the other 4, it'll be a miracle. I get, my rabbits get ear mites probably twice a year, something like that, in the summertime mostly, not so much in the wintertime. But yeah, it's a common thing. It's just something you're gonna have to deal with if you keep rabbits. Verna says, have a good one, Silmore. Whiskey Tango Farm said I should clarify Alton Brown's aged eggnog. Interesting. Let me type that one into the search bar over here, see if I can find it. Alton Brown's aged eggnog. So we found it. Winter Holiday Classic, Alton Brown's Aged. Oh, it blends rum, bourbon, and cognac with dairy and nutmeg for a that. Sorry, I'm reading this for a second. I don't even see any cream. I mean, that's just alcohol. There's no cream in it. Separate the eggs, store the whites in another application. What does it call for? Let's see. Oh, it calls for a pint of half and half and a pint of whole milk and a pint of heavy cream. So, okay, we might check that out at some point, but that sounds kind of strong. We'll see how it goes. The Emperor of Rome says, yes, thanks so much. You are absolutely welcome. Katrina says, some non-alcoholic kinds use pineapple juice, so maybe it's missing acid. Interesting. I've never thought of putting pineapple juice in eggnog. That sounds horrible. Wouldn't it curdle the milk? That doesn't sound right to me. I don't know. I mean, typically, like, you're using cream and an acid in there would cause it to curdle, wouldn't it? Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. On the other hand, I absolutely despise pineapple. I'm the weirdo. I do not like pineapple at all. Now, I do like it in some things, so I'm not, turned off by the idea of putting pineapple juice in a drink because, I don't like pineapple at all, but you mix it with some coconut and a little bit of rum, and it's pretty good, But anyway, I don't know. That seems odd to me, Katrina. I'm not saying you're lying to me. It's just, it doesn't sound right. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, Jasmine says, rabbit question. What is everyone's favorite bedding material for nesting boxes for does? I used a few different things, but I'm curious what you prefer for your rabbits. Thanks. I use straw. So I just get a bale of straw usually at the beginning of the winter or beginning of breeding season, and it lasts me all season long, and then the rest of it goes in the compost pile if I need to. But yeah, I just stuff the boxes full of straw. Actually, I use wire nesting boxes. They're open top wire nesting boxes. Or what is the measurement? 15 inches by 10 inches by 5 inches tall in the front. I don't remember exactly. You can go back and look. I've got a video on it. But anyway, I cut cardboard and line them with cardboard and then stuff them with straw, and that's it. Verna says, yes, pasteurized and chemical stabilizers do change flavor. Maybe that's it. I could try pasteurizing some, I suppose. Frederick says, I use hay for nesting boxes. There you go. Whiskey Tango Farms says the same thing. Just give them hay. Katrina says, regarding toenails, do they have a sandbox? This would probably help them to shorter if they have free access. Yeah, who said toenails? They said there was a sandbox in there. So, good suggestion, though. Grafted Branch Homestead says, how densely can you put quail in the brooder? Pretty densely. I mean, I've kept, I don't know. I mean, they can be packed pretty densely. The key there is you're going to have to make sure it's the right temperature, because if you've got them packed real densely and it gets a little bit chilly, they're all going to try to crowd under the heat lamp and they'll trample each other, and you may lose some that way. But if you've got the temperature right, you can get them in there probably, I'd say maybe like 2-3 inches per, one bird per 2 square inch, something like that, 2 to 3. And that's going to work until they're like going on 3 weeks old. And then you may have to give them a little bit more room, but they don't need a whole lot. Ari says, normally long nails wouldn't be an issue, but today we had one of them break off on the quick. So I'm trying to avoid that situation again. Yeah. I wish I had a better suggestion for you. It's never really been a problem for me. I mean, I have a bird every once in a while I've noticed has lost a toenail or something like that, but it doesn't seem to bother him too much. And it's only here and there very, very occasionally. So I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you on that. I wish I did. Chris says, what would be your number one tip for winterizing your quail hutch? Give them a windbreak. As long as they have a way to get out of the wind, that's really all you need to do. I don't really winterize my quail hutch. I mean, I take down the automatic watering system because it freezes. It's useless in the wintertime. But other than that, I don't do anything special to my hutch. They've got a place where they can get out of the wind, but they need that in the summertime too. When the storms come and stuff, they need a place to get away from it. I just switch over to little containers to water them in. One thing I would say is when you, I water in a container. I'm looking around to see if I have one. I don't have one in here. But I water in it's just like my feeders. If you've seen my feeders, it's a Tupperware style container with a hole cut in the side. I water in those because it has a lid on it. And it keeps them from jumping in it and getting it all nasty and messy. So that's what I use for waters in the wintertime. But other than that, nothing's different. It's the same setup as I have it every other time. Jasmine says, okay, interesting. I have used straw pine shavings and recently noticed a couple of my does hoarding their hay in the back of their condos. Good to know they can make decent nests with hay too. Yeah, hay should work just fine. No problem. Yeah, there's Whiskey Tango Farms. She's I skipped this comment, but you're answering the how densely can you pack them? She says 6 babies per square foot as chicks. There you go. Whiskey Tango Farms says to the eggnog recipe says there's lots of alcohol, perfect for us Wisconsinites. Yeah, probably most of the people in the country actually. Jasmine says love the eggnog cook-off idea. Katrina and Kristen. Oh, so I skipped comments because you guys were talking to each other and you're talking about doing an eggnog cook-off. Is it called a cook-off? Because you don't really cook eggnog, do you? Not usually, but anyway. Verna says pineapple juice and milk would curdle it. If not, mix with the egg first. Oh, okay. Mix it with the egg first, maybe not. I don't know. Interesting. Joey says, I fostered rabbit kits 3 days apart. Should I bring back the fostered kits or just let them stay with the new dough? I would, sorry, I got distracted by something else. If the new mother is doing a good job taking care of them, I don't know if there's any reason to bring them back. I don't know why you fostered them to begin with, so it's hard for me to answer. If the first mother was not taking care of them, then I don't see any reason to bring them back to the other mother. In fact, you've got them already with this other mother. She's doing a good job taking care of them. I don't see any reason to change that myself. But you could try it either way. Cohen Rabbitry says, I use long strand orchard grass for my nest boxes. Okay, that makes sense too. I think that would work just fine. Whiskey Tango Farm says lots of holiday cheer, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I can imagine. Katrina's saying to Verna, says, I don't know how they do it. I just know I always look on the back before buying it, as I don't do alcohol. Some have pineapple juice, some don't. Don't know how much they put in. Interesting. I can do a search on that too, because I'm just curious. Pineapple juice in egg. Oh, there is a pineapple eggnog drink, pineapple eggnog punch. Interesting. I'll have to look that up later because I thought for sure it would have curdled. But anyway, maybe not. Errol says, thanks so much, everyone, again. How are we doing on time? Yeah, about 5 minutes left or so. Errol, thanks everybody from the time again to the 100th or to the 10th power. Sorry, didn't want to over exaggerate there. Says for the helpful material posted, we'll donate to your YouTube channel on the next live broadcast. We'll purchase about 20 chicks in a week or two. Well, good deal, man. You don't have to donate anything. Don't worry about that. You are absolutely welcome for all the information. Pete says, what's the best Coturnix variety for meat production? My opinion, Jumbo Brown, Jumbo Wild, whatever you want to call them. Same thing Whiskey Tango Farms is saying. Jumbo Pharaohs, hands down. Yep, I agree. If all you want is meat and egg production, that's the bird. You can't go wrong with it. They are, they're fast producers. They have good egg size. They have good egg production. They grow out fast, and you can feather sex them. What else do you want? It's easy. That's what you want. Katrina says that sucks. To S. McKee, I have a Buff Orpington that went broody yesterday, but she doesn't have a boyfriend, so no chance of babies. I've been kicking her out of the nest box a few times a day. There's something else. I missed your comment. I'm sorry. It says before I had quail, I had chickens that I bedded in straw. The last bale I had northern fowl mites in it, so I stopped raising Oh, no, that does suck. I'm sorry to hear that. Messenger of Messiah says, do they make quail size egg cartons? If you were to sell them, I guess could use the pads they ship in. I guess you could use the pads they ship in. Do they make quail size egg cartons? Well, they do make quail size egg cartons. I don't know if you're talking about like egg cartons to store them in or egg cartons for shipping, but yeah, either way, they do make quail size egg cartons for both. So yeah, they're a thing. In fact, I think Whiskey Tango Farms has some egg holders that they sell, like plastic ones that they sell. So they might be able to hook you up with something if you're looking for something. Emily says, let them stay with the new dough. Yeah, that would be my suggestion to you. Hey, there's Katernik's Corner. Good to see you, Terry. Thanks for joining. Katrina, thanks for all the info. Chris, you're absolutely welcome. Emily says, thanks. Got to go feed my rabbits and get ready for work. Hey, have a good night at work. Jasmine says, as always, love this community and the conversation. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us, Chris. I love it too. I'm got to thank all you guys for joining, making it worth joining. It would be awful boring if I was here all by myself. And I just really appreciate it. See, Jasmine saying, yep, I really like my Whiskey Tango Farm egg trays. Get yourself some. So I don't know if, Whiskey Tango Farms, you're going to have to leave I don't know if you can leave a link in here or not, because apparently only admins can. But yeah, definitely. I don't know if you have them advertised anywhere, but tell them where they can find those. If you're selling them, I think you still are, but I don't know. S. McKee says, to Katrina, agreed. They were all silky hens, and I missed them, but the quail are a good distraction, so I'm okay with that. Well, at least it worked out. While we're waiting, we use hay for our rabbits. The straw has a lot of mites and other creepy crawlies. I've never had a problem with it, but yeah, I guess it could. Verna says, I'm thinking of ordering more of those egg trays from Whiskey Tango Farms. They looked pretty cool. When Jola says, are you ever going to try Kickstarter on your light again? I don't know, honestly. I may not. Right now, there's a big problem with it. I mean, not a big problem, but what I did is I offered it up as a pre-sale. This has been, good grief, almost a year ago. I offered it up for pre-sale because I got them, the manufacturer was able to do a smaller order. So I did offer them up for pre-sale. We ordered 30 or 40 of them, however many people bought. I can't remember now. I got to go back and look at my numbers. They were supposed to be here by now, but then COVID hit and all the supply chains got messed up. So I've been in contact with the manufacturer trying to get a date when they're going to be here. And I just don't know yet. It's difficult communicating with them and trying to interpret exactly what they're saying because, English is not their primary language and I don't speak Chinese. But I mean, they're nice people. They're doing their best. It's not like that. It's just I don't know if I understand exactly what they're telling me as to when to expect them in. They're talking about test lights being sent, and I'm glad you said something. It reminds me I got to go respond to an email. But I don't need to do testing again. I've already tested them, so it makes me concerned that they've got. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if I want to go through all that again. So I don't know if I will or not. But who knows? Maybe we'll do it. Yep, quail are molting, feathers everywhere. Yeah, I kind of got the same thing going on. Yeah, there's feathers all over the place in my hutches. Whiskey Tango Farm says, thanks to Jasmine. So glad you liked them. You made them look gorgeous. Just let us know when you're ready, Verna, for more. And Paleo says, I use Co-op Clean instead of hay. Has grit in it too. Okay. Oh, for quail, that is. Okay. That makes sense. I was wondering why you were putting grit in with your rabbits, but okay, that makes sense. Errol says, oh, hi there to Terry. Your poop management tips were the best. I use pine sawdust, and the fly and smell has been handled. Awesome. Glad to hear that. And yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you throw sawdust and stuff on there. That's the carbon. You mix it in with the nitrogen. It's going to keep the smell down, and it's going to start composting, basically. So that would kind of keep the flies down, too. That makes sense. That's a great tip, Terry. Thank you. I guess S. McKee is the one that, no, Errol's the one that shared it, but Terry's the one that shared it with him. So thank you both. S. McKee says, I don't like the quail egg cartons because they're hard to open. Okay. Verna says, Whiskey Tango Farms, we'll talk to you later. Got about 3 weeks until I have to start thinking about them. And Ro wants to know, what is Co-op Clean? I'm not sure what it is either. Said it like I should know, so I just kind of acted like I did. Ari says, I love the quail community. People in the chicken community are scary. LOL. Could be. There's what I was looking for. Yeah, you can find the info on the quail egg cartons from Whiskey Tango Farms at whiskeytangofarms.net. For the egg trays, you can also find them on Facebook and contact them that way if you're looking for it. So, Paleo Green was talking about Coop Clean. I still don't know what that is, so that doesn't help me. All right, guys, we got to wrap this one up. We are out of time. Thanks for joining tonight. Great time. Always have fun getting in here and spending some time chatting with you guys. We got to figure out how to set up some kind of room where we can actually talk to each other, and it's not just me reading your comments. We can actually have a conversation. We'll have to try to figure out how to do that sometime. But anyway, Brady has 85 chickens. That's one of those scary people there. Ari, I think it's Ari. Anyway, all right, I got to quit looking at the chats or I won't ever get out of here, and it's time. So thanks for joining tonight, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully nothing will come up. We'll be back again next Thursday evening, and looking forward to it already. But anyway, thank you for watching, as always. God bless, and we will see you guys next week.